من هؤلاء السلف؟ هم الصحابة والتابعون لهم بإحسان وأئمة المسلمين كالإمام أحمد بن حنبل ومالك والشافعي وأبي حنيفة وسفيان الثوري والأوزاعي وغيرهم من أئمة المسلمين.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. So we're carrying on with this summarized explanation regarding the fiqh of Ramadan, explained by Shaykh Ibn Uthaymīn, rahimahullah ta'ala. We were going through some of the types of things that break the fast of a person, that invalidate the fast of a person. And I think we mentioned last time, the last thing was regarding istinshaq and the mubalagha, and that, what's the last thing in your notes? Makruh. Makruh what?
Don't kiss husband. Yeah, that's what I said.
Kissing between the husband and the wife?
Don't taste any food without meat. That was before it's like.
Yes. So we got up to the section where we were talking about things that are makruh when fasting and things that are mustahab when fasting. The makruhat and the mustahabbat when fasting. That's the section we were on. So we started that last time. The first one was yukrahu jam'u riqihi fayabtali'u. It is makruh for a person to collect his saliva in his mouth and then swallow all of that. Makruh for a person to collect the saliva in his mouth and swallow that down. وَيَحْرُمْ بَلْعُ النُّخَامَةِ. You remember this one, that some scholars have the opinion that with phlegm it is impermissible to swallow that. Sometimes it may come out the mucus from the nose or other type of phlegm. That is something much more significant compared to just normal saliva. So swallowing that more significant amount, according to some scholars, that is impermissible. يَحْرُمُ بَلْعُ النُّخَامَةِ. However, it is something where there is a difference of opinion over. Some of the scholars have mentioned that if you were to swallow that, it wouldn't invalidate your fast. But others are of the opinion that it would be something that invalidates and it is haram for a person to do. And then after that, إذا خرج دم من لسانه أو من أسنانه فهل يجوز بلعه. The next issue he mentions here is if blood comes out of your tongue or your teeth, then is it permissible to swallow that? Al-Jawab, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymīn says, لا يجوز بلعه لا للصائم ولا لغيره. It is not permissible to swallow that blood whether you are fasting or not fasting. generally it is not permissible to swallow your own blood. And the Shaykh says that is due to the generality of the statement of Allah. لِعُمُومِ قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةُ وَالدَّمُ. That the maytah, an animal that has not been sacrificed and slaughtered in the proper manner, or blood, وَالدَّمُ, that is impermissible to consume. So according to that, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymīn says, generally speaking, it's not allowed for you to swallow your blood in any case, regardless of whether you're fasting or not. وَيُكْرَهُ, another thing which is makruh, ذَوْقُ طَعَامٍ بِلَا حَاجَةٍ, tasting food without a need. Tasting food without a need. أي يكره أن يذوق طعاما كالتمر والخبز والمرق إلا إذا كان لحاجة فلا بأس. والحاجة مثل أن يكون طباخا يحتاج لينظر ملحه أو حلاوته أو ما أشبه ذلك. So it is makruh for a person to taste any food when you are fasting, unless there is a necessity or a need to do that. And the necessity or the need would be something like when a person is cooking and preparing the food, then it is permissible for that person to just taste it to see whether the right amount of salt is in there, the right amount of sugar is in there, to taste how the consistency is. It is permissible for that type of person, a chef, a cook, somebody cooking and preparing the food, to do so. But otherwise, when there is no need, that is makruh. Why is it only makruh? Because if you put it in your mouth but don't actually swallow it, you haven't done anything to break your fast, but it's makruh to put that taste into your mouth when you're fasting. So that should not be done. Then, and this is the last thing, looks like we left off on, وَتُكْرَهُ الْقُبْلَةِ لِمَنْ تَحَرَّكَ شَهْوَتَهُ. And it is haram for a person, a husband, to kiss the wife if it is going to arouse his desire. In Arabic, the word for kiss is qubla. And I think I told this story to some of the brothers before. In the University of Medina, when they give you the exams, at the end, there was an exam paper. One of the brothers, not me, one of the brothers, he told me this story. There was an exam paper and they said to him on the exam, does the qibla break your wudu? Does the qibla, هل القبلة من نواقض الوضوء? So the brother said, I was sat there and I was thinking, how could the Kaaba break your wudu? How could the Qibla break your wudu? He said, I couldn't understand and I couldn't work it out and I didn't know what was going on. Until afterwards he realized that the question wasn't, does the Qibla break your wudu? The question was, does the Qibla break your wudu? Kissing. And he read it as Qibla, thinking, what's this? What kind of fiqh is this? I missed that lesson. How does the Kaaba break your wudu? So this is the Qibla, the kiss. هل تكره القبلة لمن تحرك شهوته? So it is haram for a person to kiss if it is going to arouse his desire. And here Shaykh Ibn Uthaymīn explains this issue in more detail then. He says, القبلة تنقسم إلى ثلاثة أقسام. Kissing when fasting is of three situations. Firstly, ألا يصحبها شهوة مطلقا, where there is no desire attached or connected to that kiss at all. One type of kissing is where there is no desire at all connected, attached, associated to that kiss whatsoever. What kind of kiss would that be? An example?
Greeting.
No.
Greeting. Greeting.
Greeting,
Mother and son.
mother and son. Or we're talking about the men in particular, so the child kissing his mother. Kissing his mother on the forehead, for example. Absolutely zero relevance or connection to desire. Or a father kissing his daughter or children. Absolutely no connection to desire whatsoever. So those kinds of kisses, no problem. A father kisses his children, a son kisses his mother on the forehead or something. Nothing in that. That's got no connection to this subject here. No relevance in desire at all. So that is one type. فَهَذِهِ لَا تُؤَثِّرُ. So that's got nothing to do with anything. That doesn't affect your fast in any way. Secondly, the second type, أن تحرك شهوته ولكنه يأمن من إفساد صومه. Second type is where it does implicate the desire. However, not to any degree or consequence that it would invalidate his fast or he's going to fall into anything. It's a minor affair connected to the desire. Nothing that would create a problem for the person. فهذا يقول المؤلف إن القبلة تكره في حقه. That's the one where they say it's still makruh, because there is still arousal of some desire, even if it is minor and you're not going to be overcome by it, but something as minor as it may be exists within that. And so therefore you shouldn't be doing that when fasting. That is the one they say is makruh. The third type, أن يخشى من فساد الصوم. أو يخشى من فساد الصوم. The one where it is feared that the desire will be implicated to such a degree that it may cause the invalidation of your fasting. فهذه القبلة تحرم إن ظن الإنزال. So in that situation, when a person knows that there is a great danger of the arousal of the desire to a level where it could end up invalidating his fast, could end up in the release of fluids, then that is haram. Haram for a person to engage in kissing if he fears he falls into this third category. Shaykh al-Fawzan says, generally speaking, the youth, and when he says the youth, he's talking about up to 40, 50 years old. Youth, i.e. opposed to the old people, 70s, 80s. A man in his 80s kisses his wife, there wouldn't be any issue. He would be closer to the first category or coming into the second category at best. A man in his 80s, 90s. But those in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe 60s even, then perhaps that is coming closer to the third category. Hence, Shaykh al-Fawzan says, it is incorrect for any one of the younger brackets, 30, 40, 50 even, to engage in kissing with the wife when fasting. But those who are very old, where there is no possibility or no potential or possibility or situation arising where that desire could overcome the person and something may occur, then the Shaykh says it is not an issue. We mentioned last time, you remember, in fact it's here. He says, أما القسم الثاني وهو الذي إذا قبل تحركت شهوته لكنه يأمن على نفسه فالصحيح أن القبلة لا تكره وأنه لا بأس بها. The second category we said where some element of desire comes into it but it's completely controlled and the person has no fear of being overcome by that or for it to affect his fasting. Here, so far in the categorization, we said that is makruh because some desire comes into it even if you control it. An element of desire has come in, so it's makruh. However, some of the scholars say that second category, which is basically a category where you are in control. There may be some element of desire in that case, but you are in control. Then some of the scholars, they say, it's not even makruh, that second category in that case. If you're in complete control, then there's no fear upon your fast, no issue, no threat of anything, then it's not even makruh in that case. Some of the scholars have that opinion, and they use the evidence that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as Aisha radiallahu anha said, كان يقبل وهو صائم. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to kiss his wives whilst he was fasting. He used to kiss his wives whilst he was fasting. But other scholars, they said, this hadith is not a proof for you to say that you can kiss the wives if you're in control. Because in one of the narrations of this version of the hadith, Aisha then went on to say, كان يقبل بعض أزواجه or كان يقبل نساءه or something. But then afterwards, ولكنه كان أملككم لإربه. But then she said, however, even though the Prophet used to kiss his wives when fasting, however, he was able to control his affair far greater than any of you. So Shaykh al-Fawzan uses that to say that you should not think you are like the messenger, that you can control like that. The messenger had that control over his affair to a degree that the people do not. As Aisha said, he was the greatest in his control of the affair. And these days, it is not like that, especially if a person is young, especially if a person is in their teens and they are married, or their 20s or 30s, or newly married. Then that is not the case. A person should not think it's okay, I'm okay, and then after a while he realizes what's happened now. And you get those questions, you receive those kinds of questions sometimes, where a brother may say, I was newly married, and then Ramadan came, and then this happened and that happened. Certainly he would have thought he can control the affair, and now he's asking, what do I do? This happened and that happened. So that's why Shaykh al-Fawzan says those who are still in their younger days, and he means by younger 20, 30, 40, 50 even, then they should not engage in this at all. Avoid that altogether. But as for those who are old in age, then they are comparable or getting closer to the way of the messenger of their control. Now, Shaykh Ibn mentions this other narration here. سأله يعني سأل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم رجل عن القبلة فأذن له وسأله آخر فلم يأذن له. There is this narration in Sunan Abi Dawood where a man came and asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about kissing when fasting, and the messenger permitted it. Then another man came and asked the Prophet ﷺ about kissing when fasting, and the Messenger did not permit him. One came and asked the same question, the Messenger permitted. Another one came and asked that same question, the Messenger did not permit. Why? فَإِذَا الَّذِي أَذِنَ لَهُ شَيْخٌ وَالَّذِي لَمْ يَأْذَنْ لَهُ شَابٌ. Then it became apparent in the narration that the one who the Messenger allowed was a shaykh, meaning somebody old in age. And as for the one who he did not allow, he was a shab, someone younger in age. فَهَذَا, even though that narration in Sunan Abi Dawud is weak, that narration like that about the two men is weak. But the scholars do use that general principle though, because the general principle is in line with the understanding of the issue about desire and a lack of desire. So those who are older will have a lower or a lack of desire, and those who are younger will clearly have more. So generally the idea works, and that's what the scholars they mention. That is just a kiss. As for anything more than that, other types of physical contact or intimacy, then that would have the same categorization, you could say, as the kissing, those three categories we mentioned. Then, this is continuing with the makruhat. وَيَجِبُ اجْتِنَابُ كَذِبٍ وَغِيبَةٍ وَشَتْمٍ. It is obligated, mandatory for the believer to stay away from lying, backbiting, cursing others. Lying, backbiting, and cursing others. This is mentioned in a hadith as well. There is the famous hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man lam yada' قول الزور والعمل به والجهل فليس لله حاجة في أن يدع طعامه وشرابه." That whomsoever does not leave, من لم يدع قول الزور. قول الزور is every type of false speech, lying, namima, backbiting, everything. Every type of false speech is قول الزور in that hadith. Whomsoever does not leave قول الزور, every type of false speech, backbiting, namima, lying, all of it. قول الزور والعمل به, and does not leave acting upon that falsehood. It's one thing narrating all of the falsehood, then also physically acting upon that falsehood, doing something based upon those lies and that backbiting, performing some actions based upon those affairs, saying it and acting upon it. Whomsoever does not leave the false speech and acting upon it, wal-jahl. Al-jahl, as the scholars they say in that narration, means as-safa, foolishness. Whomsoever does not leave false speech, action upon that, and foolishness, فَلَيْسَ لِلَّهِ حَاجَةٌ فِي أَنْ يَدَعَ طَعَامَهُ وَشَرَابَهُ. Then Allah has no need for that person to leave his food and drink. The meaning of that narration, as Shaykh al-Fawzan he mentioned, is that the mufattirat ala qismain. Al-mufattirat ala qismain. The things that break your fast are two types. مفطرات حسية كالأكل والشرب والجماع، ومفطرات معنوية. One type of thing that harms your fast, invalidates your fast, are physical, tangible things like eating, drinking, etc. They break your fast. Another thing that harms your fast are kind of the non-physical things, not eating or drinking, but lying and cheating and deceiving and قول الزور والعمل به والجهل. All of these are things that break your fast in meaning, whereas eating, drinking, etc. break your fast in reality. They break your fast in reality. الأكل والشرب تعمدا عليه القضاء. They have to make it up. But as for the one who falls into lying and backbiting, al-ghiba wal-namima wal-kadhib wal-buhtan, all of these kind of things, they do not invalidate your fast. ليس عليه القضاء. The fast counts, but the ajr is lost. The reward is lost. A person spends his days, his month of Ramadan, lying about people, backbiting people, carrying tales between people, cheating, deceiving, does all of those things. It doesn't break his fast, the day counts, but the reward for that day may all disappear because of those evil deeds. He may have no reward left because of the backbiting and lying he's been doing all day, but his day counts. Nobody's going to say you have to make up that day because you were backbiting. Your reward is gone, but the day counts. So that's why they call them things that break your fast in meaning. Mufattarat al-ma'nawiyya. But the other ones, they are the ones that break your fast in reality. Eat food and drink, etc. So this hadith now in this section here, يجتنب أو يجب اجتناب كذب وغيبة وشتم. It's talking about those things that harm your fast in meaning. The kadhib, the lying, and the ghiba, the backbiting, and the shatm, the cursing and abusing. Kadhib, what is the definition of kadhib? What's the definition of lying?
Lying means telling somebody that is not the truth.
That's true. So in Arabic, they would give a definition and say that kadhib is it is ikhbar, giving some information that is khilaful waqi', that is in opposition to the reality. If I say the walls are white, the walls are white, that is it's a lie. You're accusing me of being a liar? It's a lie. If I say the walls are white, that would be a lie because the walls are blue. So they say linguistically a lie is informing of something in opposition to the reality. So the walls are blue. If I say they are white, I have now given you information in opposition to the reality. That is then a lie. That's linguistically a lie. Linguistically. Giving some information in opposition to the reality. Of course, when we talk about lies, they are much more severe in their reality between the people and the lies that occur. Allah Musta'an. And ghiba, the definition of ghiba we know is the ghiba, definition of ghiba. أن تذكر أخاك بما يكره, that you mention your brother with an affair that he dislikes. Then one of the companions said, أرأيت لو كان فيه ما أقول. So the messenger said, إذا كان فيه فقد اغتبته. وإن لم يكن فيه فقد بهته بهتان. So if you speak of your brother with an affair that is true, but it's something he hates, so you're backbiting him. That's backbiting, even if it's true. And if it's not true, then that is slander. So all of those things impermissible. The ghiba in the Quran, it mentions أَيُحِبُّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَنْ يَأْكُلَ لَحْمَ أَخِيهِ مَيْتًا فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. Would you love to eat the meat or the flesh of your dead brother? Certainly you hate that. Some of the scholars, they say in tafsir of this ayah, it is possible, mumkin, that on the day of judgment, you, the backbiter, will be told to take some flesh from the body and eat it. In reality, this will occur. It's in the tafsir of some of the scholars. And others, they say it has other meanings. But of course, those are severe meanings, whichever they are. And shat, which is abuse. And how widespread is that amongst the people these days too? These things, as Shaykh Ibn Uthaymīn said, are diseases in society. They are diseases in society. The backbiting, the namima, the lying, the curse and abuse of people. These, in particular, he said two diseases, namima and ghiba, tail carrying and backbiting. And Shaykh Ibn Uthaymīn said these are two diseases in society. The people, they backbite each other and they carry tales about each other to cause corruption. So, these are from the things that break your fast in meaning. So they are obviously makruh, haram, impermissible for a person to do that. That's why the Salaf, they used to say, أَيْسَرُ الصَّوْمِ تَرْكُ الطَّعَامِ وَالشَّرَابِ. The easiest part of fasting is to stop eating and drinking. That's easy. So then what is the hardest, most difficult part? Leaving the ghiba, the namima, the kadhib, and all of these evil things. Leaving all of these things is the difficulty. Leaving the food and drink is possible. Everybody can do that. وَاسْتُنَّ لِمَنْ شُتِمَ قَوْلُهُ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ. And it is sunnah that the one who is cursed or abused and some vile speech is made against him, that he says, Inni sa'im, that I am fasting. I am fasting. I will not engage with you in this way. And the reality is, that is the etiquette of a person all the time. It's not like when it's outside of Ramadan, somebody does something now. Let's go do this and let's go do that. That is not the way. This is not from the streets of the days of old. A person starts practicing the religion, starts learning the Quran and the Sunnah, learns the mannerisms of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you should learn the etiquettes and the morals, the adab of how to behave. A person does not behave like they used to behave off the streets years ago. That's why one of the imams of the past, I forgot the names, but one of the imams of the past, it was said to him, so and so cursed you or abused you or said some things about you, but you're not going to do anything. And his reply was, what did we learn knowledge for in that case? Meaning, if you want me to behave like him, he has said things about me and abused me and cursed me, and now you're telling me because you want me to do the same back to him, then what was the point of learning all this knowledge? We learn knowledge to act upon it, not learn knowledge to then go back and behave how we used to on the streets. He said to him, فِيمَا تَعَلَّمْنَا الْعِلْمِ, or something along those lines. Then for what reason have we learned this knowledge? I'm not going to behave in the same way. That's what he said to him. So it is sunnah for a person who is cursed or abused to say inni sa'im, I am fasting. Some of the scholars, they say, how do you do that? If somebody, imagine, to your face curses you, you say to them, inni sa'im. Or is that something you just be quiet, go away and say to yourself, inni sa'im, inni sa'im? Which way is it done? Both. Some scholars, they said, say it, inni sa'im, and walk away. Others, they said, walk away and say it to yourself, inni sa'im, and then you're not going to engage yourself. Both ways. يقولها سرا وقال بعضهم يقولها جهرا. Then, carrying on now, remember this is all about the makruhat and the mustahabbat. Now one of the mustahabbat, تأخير suhur, to delay the suhoor meal in the morning. أي يسن له تأخير السحور، فمثلا إذا كان يكفيه ربع ساعة في السحور فالسنة أن يتسحر إذا بقي ربع ساعة، وإذا كان يكفيه 5 دقائق فإنه يتسحر إذا بقي 5 دقائق. That you are supposed to have your suhoor in just the amount of time that it takes you. So if you're going to have whatever you're going to have these days, mashallah, cereal or whatever people are going to have, you're going to have your Weetabix, and it takes you 5 minutes to eat your bowl of Weetabix. So now then, you should have your suhoor just 5, 8, 9 minutes before the time finishes, because you know it only takes you 5 minutes to eat your Weetabix, that's your suhoor, for example. So you shouldn't have that half an hour before the time ends, knowing it's only going to take you 5 minutes. You should have it right there, 6, 7 minutes left, finish it off. So you only have your suhoor in the time that it takes you. The Messenger used to have the suhoor how early compared to Fajr prayer?
Time of reading 50 ayahs.
Between the Messenger finishing his suhoor to starting the Fajr prayer, it was the time that takes to read 50 ayahs. مقدار 50 ayah. How long does it take you to recite 50 ayahs of the Quran? Not long. 50 ayahs, how much is it? 2 pages, 3 pages, nothing. 50 ayahs doesn't take that long. Minutes we're talking. We're not talking half an hour, 1 hour. We're talking within minutes, 5, 10, 15 minutes. So the Messenger used to finish his suhoor. That means just before the Fajr time used to enter. So it is sunnah to have that late, not to have it early. Some of the things that people do these days, Taraweeh, after Taraweeh, they go out for a big meal, or they have a big meal at 11 p.m., 12 p.m., and that's it, go to sleep, no suhoor. Get up later on. And that is wrong. So the suhoor is to be had prior to the Fajr time entering shortly. And it is sunnah to have that. تَسَحَّرُوا فَإِنَّ فِي السُّحُورِ بَرَكَةً. Hadith. Have the suhoor, for indeed within that there is barakah. And also, لأن فيه مخالفة اليهود والنصارى. لأنهم لا يتسحرون. The Jews and the Christians, when they fast, they don't have a suhoor. So it is in opposition to the Jews and the Christians to have the suhoor. That's why Shaykh al-Fawzan said, have it, even if you don't feel like it. Have a couple of dates, a few dates and a sip of water at least. You've had your suhoor at least then. Even if it's a tiny, tiny amount that you eat. Have something, so you've had your suhoor, you've opposed the Jews and Christians, you've implemented the sunnah, and you got the barakah from it. Then, من المستحبات تعجيل فطر, to hasten to open the fast. So when the time comes for the fast to be opened, Maghrib time enters, you should not delay. The hadith mentions لا يزال الناس بخير ما عجلوا الفطر. The people will remain upon goodness as long as they hasten to open their fasts. There's another narration, أحب عباد الله أعجلهم فطرا. Or كما قال, along those lines, the most beloved of the servants to Allah is أعجلهم فطرا. The ones who are quickest in opening their fast, meaning they don't delay opening their fast. When the adhan for Maghrib starts, if it's on time, they open their fast, they don't delay. At the time of the Messenger, did anybody used to delay opening their fast? No, they didn't. They used to open it on time. So then why did the Messenger mention this issue of delaying and that you shouldn't delay and open it on time when they all used to do that anyway? The scholars, they say this is from the miracles of the Messenger. Revelation came to him regarding an issue that wasn't occurring at the time, but it was known to Allah that this is something that people would do in the future. And that's what they do. Don't people now, when it comes to Maghrib time, they say, wait, let it get a bit dark. Wait 10, 20 minutes. Look, it's still light outside. Wait a little bit, 20 minutes, half an hour. Let it get a bit dark, then we'll eat, just to be sure. That is mukhalafatu sunnati nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You are opposing the sunnah of the Messenger. Normally, when it's Maghrib time now, and the adhan is done, whatever time it was, 5:47 or something, whatever time the adhan for Maghrib is, normally what happens if the adhan is done, then you have maybe a few minutes and then the iqamah has to be done. After a few minutes, if the imam hasn't turned up, what do people start doing? Everybody starts looking around. Where's the imam? Where's the imam? Everybody looking at their watch. Everybody saying, go on, tfaddal. Yeah. You lead the prayer. Imam's not here. MashaAllah, you don't want to wait now. You can't wait now, huh? When it's not Ramadan, Maghrib time, khalas, adhan, ya Allah. You need to pray and get out quickly. But when it's Ramadan time, now, no, wait, it's a bit light outside now. This shows that people are doing things from their mentality, not the sunnah. The sunnah is not to delay and say it's light outside. When Maghrib happens, the sun sets, it is still light outside. It doesn't go dark when the sun goes down. The sun goes down, it is still light yet. Takes another 20, half an hour for it to get dark. You open your fast and you should not delay. So it's a mistake that people make delaying. But another mistake as well, though, is in the mosques, what do they do sometimes? I don't know in this mosque you do it or not. You have the iftar jama'i, together everybody, you bring food and eat. Big food or...
This one, I know they do it in where I'm...
Here, this masjid. Do they bring proper food at Maghrib time?
Yeah.
All right, so now then in some mosques,
Not here.
he's saying you're very loud, you better do it now. So what happens is they bring the food out at Maghrib time, the adhan happens, then they give everybody maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes. In some mosques they bring full meals, rice and chicken and everything. Half an hour everybody's eating first. Then they come and do iqamah and pray. The prayer is valid, but it's against the sunnah. The sunnah is the Messenger, what did he used to do? Adhan, open the fast. Ala rutab. The dates, the moist dates, water. Then he used to pray. Then if he wanted to, he would sit down and eat. So you shouldn't sit down and have big meals. Dates and water. Open your fast with dates and water, iqama, pray. Then after that you can get the food out if there's other things, and you can sit down and people can eat and do what they want. So what should the iftar should be done on? Ala rutab, that is the best thing, and they are those moist, soft dates. Moist, soft dates. Some dates are like dry. The Messenger used to open his fast not on the dry dates, on the wet dates, the moist dates. Those are the best ones. If you can't find those, then normal dry dates, whichever ones you have. If you cannot find that either, then water. And if you don't even have any water, then whatever food you have. So the rutab or normal dates or water. After that, whatever it may be. So على رطب فإن عدم فتمر فإن عدم فما. And that's in the hadith إذا أفطر أحدكم فليفطر على تمر فإن لم يجد فليفطر على ماء فإنه طهور. That when you open your fast, then you should do it with the moist, soft dates. And if not, then with water, because it is purifying. Shaykh al-Fawzan, he said, one of the wisdoms in opening your fast with those soft, moist dates is because of the sweetness in them. And after you've been fasting for a long time, food like that is good for the stomach and good for some energy and things like that. So it's mentioned these are the wisdoms in opening the fast with those moist dates. Then, moving on to another issue now. ويستحب القضاء متتابعا. Imagine you have days left to make up now. You were sick for a week, or you were traveling for a week. You got 7 days to make up. It is sunnah, or it is mustahab. It is mustahab. Some of the scholars, they say that you should make up the days in a row. Recommended mustahab. You missed 7 days, you should make them up afterwards 7 in a row. Rather than 1 and 2, take a few days off, another 1 and 2. Do all of them in one go. They say that is mustahab. For different reasons they mention. And then وَلَا يَجُوزُ إِلَى رَمَضَانَ آخَرْ مِنْ غَيْرِ عُذْرٍ. And you're not allowed to go beyond the next Ramadan. You have to make up before the next Ramadan comes up. Anytime in the 11 months before the next Ramadan comes up. Aisha radiallahu anha, in the narration, she mentioned sometimes she would make up in Sha'ban because she was preoccupied with the messenger and other affairs. So she would sometimes make them up right at the end in this month in Sha'ban before Ramadan. So any time in the next 11 months. But what if a person wants to do the day of Arafah, or wants to do the day of Ashura, wants to do other Sunnah days, Monday, Thursday, or 3 white days? Can you do those kinds of fasts before you make up these Ramadan ones? Or are you not allowed to do any of those until you do these first? So if you decide to do these right at the end in Sha'ban, then you shouldn't be doing any other fasts until you do these? Or what's the ruling or situation there? Combining the intention, I don't think we've got time for that today. But otherwise, combining the intention, there's a bit more detail about that. There's a bit more detail on combining the intention, whether you can combine the intention between a fard and a sunnah, because the others are sunnah, Ashura, Arafat, none of them are fard. So now you've got a fast which is fard and another one which isn't. Combining between them, a lot of the scholars, they just say your primary intention is just going to be the fard one. your intention isn't really half fard and half Arafah, then in that case the fard doesn't count. If your intention is only 50% for the fard, your intention has to be 100% for the fard qada, has to be. And then on top of that, you want to have this extra intention about Arafah and Ashura. Then the scholars, they say, Insha'Allah, you'll get the other reward as well, Insha'Allah. But if you want to be clear about the affair, then you simply fast Arafah, Ashura, these kinds of days, purely with the intention of Arafah, Ashura, etc. And do your other days on other days. But there is a dispute over this issue. Some scholars, they say you can't fast Arafah and Ashura and these other days until you make up the qada first. And they use a very simple principle in usul al-fiqh. The simple principle is the fard is muqaddam ala al-nafila al-sunan. The obligation gets priority over the supererogatory. Your days from Ramadan are fard upon you. The day of Arafah and Ashura, despite the great reward in them, are they fard upon you? No, your days of Ramadan have a greater priority than these days. Some scholars are of the opinion that you're not allowed to start fasting supererogatory ones and you haven't even done the obligatory ones on your shoulders yet. You have obligatory fasts which are considered a debt to who? To Allah. You have a debt to Allah. If you're going to think about examples, if you have a debt to a person, you owe that person a debt, and you've owed him for a long time, he's been asking you a long time, and you're overdue and everything maybe. And then you owe somebody else as well, he just borrowed something last week. You're not going to go pay him first and forget about this guy. You're going to pay this one first. Same here, when you have an obligation to Allah, that debt needs to be paid off first. Then you can start looking at the other days and sunnah days. That is the reasoning and the logic some scholars they use. Others they say, but look, isn't it allowed though to make up the days any time up until next Ramadan? It's allowed. They say it's the same as Dhuhr prayer, for example. These days, whatever time it starts, 1 p.m. and Asr starts, let's imagine 3 p.m. So you're allowed to pray Dhuhr anytime in those 2 hours. Anytime in those 2 hours. If somebody decides that they're going to sit down and read some Quran from 1 o'clock till 2 o'clock, and then 2 o'clock they're going to go pray their Dhuhr, permissible or not? No, not permissible. Why not? The time is from 1 to 3. Imagine there's no mosque available. You're just going to pray at home, or you're traveling somewhere, or whatever it is. 1 till 3 is the time of Dhuhr. 3 o'clock Asr starts. So you can pray Dhuhr any time from 1 till 3 o'clock. So if somebody decides, or a woman, let's give the example of a woman who prays at home. So if she decides, I'm going to sit down and read Quran from 1 till 2 p.m. Then at 2 p.m. I'm going to go pray my Dhuhr. Permissible or not? Permissible. Can anybody say to her, but praying Dhuhr is a fard, reciting the Quran is not a fard in the same way. You should pray your Dhuhr first, then read the Quran. Not allowed for you to read the Quran before you pray Dhuhr. Is that? Definitely not. So some of the scholars say, how can you say to a person, you're not allowed to fast Arafah or Ashura and these things until you make up your days? The days are allowed all the way for 11 months. Aisha radiallahu anha used to do them in Sha'ban. So some of the other scholars, they say it's no problem. You can do these other days, the supererogatory days, as long as you do your obligatory days up until that time. And that is in usul al-fiqh when they say al-waqt muttasi'. When the time for a particular worship is extended, then it's permissible for you to use any of that time to do your worshipping. If there's an extended optional time for you, then your worship is valid anywhere in that time. So now making up your fast is valid anywhere in that 11 months before next Ramadan. Doesn't matter if you do optional ones first. So there's a difference over that issue though anyway. Except one issue. Finally one we'll finish off on today. Except one type of fast you can't do until you finish your Ramadan, which is من صام رمضان ثم أتبعه بست من شوال. The 6 days of Shawwal after Ramadan, they can only be done if you have finished your Ramadan. So if you had a week to make up from Ramadan, you have to make up that week in Shawwal quickly at the beginning. If you want to get your 6 days of Shawwal in. You can't do the 6 days of Shawwal if you haven't made up your days of Ramadan yet. That's because the hadith says, من صام رمضان ثم أتبعه بست من شوال. التعقيب ثم بعدما صام رمضان وأكمل صيام رمضان. So the first person, he has to have finished Ramadan, completed Ramadan. Then the hadith says, then he does 6 extra days of Shawwal. ثم أتبعه. So the person who has qada, من عليه القضاء, the one who has qada to make up, then in that case, لم يصم رمضان بعد. He hasn't finished fasting Ramadan yet. Hadith says, من صام رمضان انتهى منه ثم أتبعه بست من شوال. So that one, if you want to do the 6 days of Shawwal, which gives you the reward of 60 days, then you have to finish Ramadan first. And the one who does those 6 days, كان كصيام الدهر, then he has the reward of a year. How? Because Ramadan is 30 days of fasting approximately. Every hasana bi'ashri amthaliha, so that's 300 rewards. 6 days in Shawwal, every day for 10 rewards, that's 60 rewards, which makes a total of 360, which is a year. That's why the hadith says he gets the reward of a year, like 360 days. We'll have to stop on that for today.